Hey everyone, Doug here from 2 Plus Stuff, and I am throwing together a very quick live stream because some news came out from GW that I could not be more excited about. So if you haven't been paying attention, they told us a couple weeks ago that there was this box coming out called, what's it called? The Carrion Empire, where it was Flesh Eater Courts versus Skaven, mostly focusing on Clan Scryer. And so that kind of got people talking about well, first of all, the nature of this year's releases, people are excited to see Battletomes getting rewritten, especially the older ones, which are not bad Battletomes like Fire Slayers, Flesh Eater Courts. What are some of the other ones that haven't gotten redone? This first generation, I guess we'll call them. But the game has really evolved beyond what they were kind of built to do. Iron Jaws is another one for sure, and so there's a lot of anticipation for like new development directions from, I don't know, many folks. So what I'm really excited about today was they told us this box was coming and people were like, okay, does this mean we're getting redone Battletomes? Does it mean they're just getting models added? Or is this one of those rebox things? One thought that I put forward was that we saw with Blight War, we got Stormcast, and we had Stormcast for a while, but we also got Nurgle Demons and it introduced the wheel, which was then introduced into the Battletome when it came out about 4 months later. So that was a lot of like, theory crafting about what does this mean for Skaven. All of that got put aside when, let me just put it over here. I see that the stream is working. Thank you everyone for typing that in. They released 2 things that are going up for pre-order, it looks like, next week. And I'm going to be very upfront and honest. I do not have either of these books. GW didn't send me them and was never told that I was looking to receive them. So no AOS stuff. As far as this set, though, we saw the set before. I'm going to blow this picture up in case someone hasn't seen it. This is why I love this. You get some excellent Skaven models. You get the wheel at the bottom there. The new character, the Bombardier guy, here in the dead center. 3 of the Storm Fiends and a Warp Lightning Cannon. That's cool, but it is all Scryer, so people were like, is it just a Scryer book? I don't know what's going on. And then for Flesh Eater Courts, you get their new hero type guy. Has a very awesome title that I can't remember right now. It looks like about 20 of the ghouls and 2 sets of the Crypt Horror Crypt Flare kit. So first of all, if you are looking to start a Flesh Eater Courts army, this is an amazing value. Like this is one of those armies that, like I've said before, you can go out and buy 3 or 4 of their Start Collecting boxes and be okay because of the nature of their Battletome. And so the only thing in the Start Collecting box that has diminishing returns is the Zombie Dragon kit. Well, in this, you drop the Zombie Dragon kit, you gain another unit of the Crypt Horror kit, as well as your unique hero. So if you were to grab this and 3 Start Collecting boxes, you would be super set. I mean, in a really good way. So awesome. As for Skaven, well, we're going to get to that. We're not sure of the value yet, but in an optimistic kind of way. The box set, I love the fact that it includes the small core rule booklet, which I have a couple of these things. As someone who, I just started running demos at a local game night that I'm trying to start up, having the quick read, printed out core rules in abundance is important, and I wish they did that more. So that's excellent. Good job, GW. And there's also a booklet for Carrion Empire. Now, I'm going to see if I can get this separately. I don't have either of these armies. There's been many times where I've wanted to play Flesh Eater Courts in my life, and I'm trying to stay emotionally strong, but I certainly want to get the lore inside that book and kind of explore why. I think these factions, just over the fighting resources of raw material, of meat, of people to consume, I think they definitely have narrative reasons to clash. So I think that's awesome. Also looks like you get a set of tokens in here. I'm curious because we were talking about the Blight War set introducing the mechanics of Nurgle. Like, I wonder if these tokens are part of, like, is Carrion Empire an isolated game, but models that can be used in other armies, or do they give you tokens that'll be applicable if you play these factions on their own? Like, do you get Skaven tokens that are useful when the Skaven book comes out? We'll get to that in a second, or Flesh Eater Courts, vice versa. So I'm very interested in that aspect of it. Yeah, start using a Skaven or Flesh Eater Courts. I'm going through this with you as we're doing this, just for folks who can't stop and read. A lot of people drive and have this stuff playing, I've been told. But then they drop the bomb on us, because that made us wonder, and they say, nope, Chaos Battletome Skaven is on the way. Forging together the forces of clans Scryer, Pestilence, Molder, Verminous, Eshin, and the Master Clan into a single Skaven tide. This is the Battletome of the Great Horned Rat has been waiting for since Age of Sigmar was released. This is important. Each of the clans has its own allegiance abilities representing their tactics and character, but you'll also be able to field them as a single, coherent, and deadly force. Okay, so we have... Let me go through them again one more time. Scryer, which focuses on mechanical stuff, engineering, feats, and ranged weapons. Pestilence, which we already know, which is great to see that they are bringing they are rejuvenating that book, but in a way that it's reintegrated, much like what they used to be. Not before Blades of Corn, there was Corn Bloodbound, but then also demons were just kind of off to the side, and they were like, no, we're gonna revamp Bloodbound and make it the Blades of Corn book with everything in one. They're doing the same thing, right? They're just bringing Pestilence, like, forget all that stuff. Let's just bring it into this one core book. So that's excellent. Pestilence is really great at dumping out mortal wounds and a plethora of melee attacks, but they have no saves. So, almost universally. Molder, which is the big, homunculus, nasty creatures, one of the grossest models ever. What's it called? It's going to bug me. Games Workshop. Their big, nasty model, it's like 1,000 rats stitched together. It's the grossest thing. Skaven. It's like right on the tip of my tongue. Oh, actually, now that I'm glad I went to this page. I wonder what we're going to do with Thankful and Bone Ripper. Hell Pit Abomination was what I was thinking of. I had Hell, but I couldn't think of the rest of it. We'll get back to that. Sorry. So these are all the big constructs, like rat ogres, things like that, like tough. They are the Troggoths to goblins, right? They have like the rat ogres, lots of wounds, super tough, things that regenerate health. Like, I think that's probably the best way to look at them. Verminous, which is there used to be another name for them in the old world. If someone knows that, throw it in the chat. But this is like your clan rats, the warlord, that kind of stuff. Your militant arm of the Skaven. Eshin, which is your... I hope they expand on Eshin, to be honest with you, but it's basically assassins, really. There's some other units, but that's functionally what they are. They're all stealthy. And the Master Clan, which just represents leaders, heroes, wizards, the giant rats, what are they called? Vermin Lords, that kind of stuff. So, names are escaping me today. I'm just getting over a cold, so please bear with me. Into a single Skaven tide. So yeah, and so we talk about, we're going to do some wild speculation right now. Each of the clans has its own allegiance abilities representing their tactics and character. I do think Pestilence will probably stay the same. Roughly the same. I say roughly because I think it does need a tune-up, but I wonder if they're going to focus on the prayer aspect, because that's their thing right now. Scryer, a lot of technology. Molder, I like to see like a lot of regeneration mechanics. Verminous, I don't know. Well, I don't know. I think we can safely say that depending on what allegiance of Skaven you take, you'll be able to unlock like some units being battle line only. I think that's kind of a given. But I'm kind of curious as to what things, because they could theoretically add artifacts and spell lores if applicable, or prayer list if applicable, to each one of these things and make it as complex with a lot of moving parts as they want. And I'm very, very excited about that. Let's see here. We're going to read down below. The Battletome contains loads of new rules and content and cements Skaven as a major power player, both on tabletop and in between the mortal realms. And that is the part that really excites me. Is for the longest time they've kind of been this MacGuffin that just pops up and like, bah, Skaven. You know what I mean? They do fun things like when they drained an ocean in Shyish by accident and silly stuff like that. But much like I said when we did the Glimpse by Gitz book, like, I think the strength of that book was putting this faction in the context of this fictional universe, and that's what I want to see from the Skaven book. I think that's what they're missing right now, because they already have a great model line range. They have great stuff. They just needed some rules to kind of bind them together and a place in the story arc. So, yeah. Like other armies this edition, Skaven will be getting new scenery, in this case a tunnel network of gnaw holes, as well as new endless spells, custom dice, and war scroll cards. So let's take a look at these. I'm assuming this is the gnaw hole. And my assumption is probably some teleportation mechanic. You probably deploy them before the game, and if you have a unit nearby, they can pop up on the other side, or it functions as alternate deployment sites. Or, I mean, it could be both. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think of, like, the idea of a gnaw hole is a burrowing through reality, so it could be your army coming to the battlefield, like alternate deployment, or using them to get across it. So that'd be kind of cool. Also, these models are stunning. The little things really do bring it together. Like these little braziers on each one of them, they do a great job of capturing the pestilence stuff, the rotten wood. It looks like all of the mechanical things that Scryer builds. Like it looks like it's part of the faction. I'm curious to see how it goes together just from a modeler perspective, but it looks really cool. Then they have, looks like 3 endless spells. One's a Tide of Rats, which is great. I think we probably could surmise something like that happening after we saw the Tide of Spiders from the other one. Looks like we got an awesome bell here, which is awesome. I like to think that it is I don't know, it has some kind of mechanic for like making it ring 13 times. And these kind of look like warp stone tornadoes, which is really cool. More than anything, as someone who's not going to jump into Skaven, I'm looking at this, I'm thinking I want to see the paint tutorial for these guys, because I would love to get that warp glow effect on a lot of things. They've done stuff before, but I think having this model as being like a bigger, heftier thing would be better for tutorials. So moving along, we have their cards, which in this image are in Chinese or Japanese. I'm not sure why they picked that one for us, but they probably just didn't want us snooping, or they really wanted us to snoop super hard, so we need someone to translate those. But just as an aside, the art on the back of these things looks amazing. I didn't realize when I bought my Beast of Chaos one that the art on the back of the cards is really, really nice. So I appreciate quality if you're going to spend $15. These are probably some of the best dice that GW has produced in terms of you can actually read what you're trying to read. They have a 1 side and a 6 side, the 6 being the Skaven symbol, of course. But they seem absolutely legible, even the ones on the side here. And bravo. Whether or not they're, I don't know, 100% balanced or whatever, I don't know, but they look really fun. So, it's a stark contrast to, say, like the Deepkin dice that I still can't read. We have a local Deepkin player who uses them, and I don't fault him for it. And, it's one of those things where I just keep reiterating, I trust you. I'm just going to trust you. In short, Skaven are set to have everything you need to conquer the mortal realms, or at least your very next gaming night. So that is extremely cool. I'm excited for how they play. Just off the bat, unless one clan is super superior to the others, I can definitely see a unified force being the best, because just like Gloomspite Gits and Beast of Chaos, you can pull in all different kinds of things. If you need a tough guy to set an objective, boom, you got the Molder Rat Ogres. If you need bodies to clog up the enemy, you got Verminous Clan Rats or Pestilence Monks, Scryer stuff shooting at you from the back. There's all kinds of stuff. And then we move into the thing that I'm personally more excited for, although I know Skaven are a massive fan favorite, the Flesh Eater Courts. Battletome Flesh Eater Courts updates one of Age of Sigmar's most popular armies for the new edition of the game, bringing together allegiance abilities, deeper rules, and more to bring the army to a fully up-to-date. So just kind of giving it a facelift. Very important facelift. And the meat of it is you'll be able to customize your characters with new magic and artifacts, or dedicate your army to one of the Grand Courts, which is probably their term for like storm hosts. Side with Gristle Gore, for example, and you'll get to take Royal Zombie Dragons as battle line. Oh! I'm just trying to think of like the equivalent of what is it? The High Elf. The one with the dragon princes and the dragons, like that little subsection is brutal as a game because it's so aggressive. That sounds awesome. You've got new models on the way too, in the form of the Carnal Throne, Terrain Piece, and gruesome set of endless spells. A set of handy War Scroll cards. Yep. Okay. So let's see. This one's in English. And their new model, I believe, is the Arborant Archregent, which is really, really cool. And we can see, what does he got? 7 wounds on him. That's nice for a tiny little death guy. I don't know. I'm trying to look over there. I'm not too big into, like, enhance and zooming in 1,000 times. But we do see some interesting things on their cards here, where it's listing out Ferocious Hunger, which I know is a mechanic I believe that exists right now, but they give you some great ways to track those things. I'm kind of curious as to what they're adding. There's quite a few of these things. Feed on Dark Magic, Ferocious Hunger 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what they mean, but sounds cool. Next up is their Endless Spells. We have this. Oh, these are so cool. Oh my gosh. They have these goblets made of skulls in the top left. I love that it's like this mist blood pulling it out together. Oh, it's so cool. And then what I think is the most impressive Endless Spell so far of all the ones that I've seen is these 3 dead horses pulling out of the ground. This looks killer. They did a great job of doing the gore inside the bones and things like that. They look like they've been chewed on. Very cool stuff. I wish they could do like a 360 spin, because on the right one over here, it looks like he has 3 legs. 3 front legs. Maybe there's a 4th horse over there that he's kind of hidden behind this one. Actually, I think it is. There's a mouth right there. Okay. Makes a little more sense now. And at the bottom, it looks like a palisade type thing, but with a bunch of corpses stuck to a fence, which is just so cool. I want this army so bad, but I need to not play it. Looks like they get a terrain piece too, the throne. Interesting. I'm kind of interested as far as what this could possibly do. And they could say, like, it could be like the Herdstone, where if you're near the throne, you get such and such. Like, it's like a symbol of authority and people follow it. It could be something like a hero has to be near it to get something. I'm not quite sure. I think it'd be really cool if it was like, if your hero sits on the throne, you get an extra command point every turn, because then it would incentivize you to like hold back a little bit, which would be in stark contrast to the rest of the army. And those are the those are the things from Flesh Eater Courts. And it goes into Gene Stealer Cults, and there are some cool releases, but this is an Age of Sigmar focused channel, and we've been seeing these things on blast for like a week now. Very cool models. Go check them out if you're interested. But me, of the 2 factions they've talked about, I am more interested in Flesh Eater Courts for sure. Simply because it's a faction that I've wanted to play for quite some time. Because of the way that their army works in terms of models and units. By that, what I mean, if you're not familiar, in all of their kits, we'll go to the Flesh Eater Courts thing just so I can show you. In all their kits, they have a very unique way of building heroes. And I hope that that continues. I see no reason why it wouldn't. Come on. Okay. So you get the Zombie Dragon kit, and you can build any one of these 5 options, which is incredible. And then you move into what's called the Crypt Haunter Courtier. It's a hero unit you build from the same Crypt Horror kit that makes these other 3 options. And so the idea being, you can build heroes as optional kit bashes internally from units that already exist. So you just keep buying the same kit, which sounds like a negative, right? You're just buying the same thing over and over again. But the versatility they've added in that same box is absolutely astounding. So tons of stinking fun. And it looks like it's all going up for pre-order next week, including the Gene Stealer Cult stuff, which makes it a very impressive release. Let's see, I think it was in the bottom here. You'll be able to pre-order the latest Battletomes models next weekend. In the meantime, keep an eye out for previews. Yeah, looks like that's it. So I'm very curious, as far as the Flesh Eater Courts go, what their terrain piece does, and if they've added any new mechanics. I'd love for them to add new mechanics. I want the delusions to be more pronounced than their General's Handbook rules. And as far as the Skaven go, I think people are just going to go wild, because it's a faction, like I've talked about the 2 factions I think GW needed to do for quite some time, where you got to do Skaven because it's your most iconic and original intellectual property, and you have an incredible fan base built around it. I've been very emphatic about that. And I think the second is Free People, because it's the window from which we can understand the mortal realms, because we are also tiny humans. We're not lightning men, demigods. And so they knocked out one of the 2 books. I'm very, very excited about that. And this set is incredible. I know Jack has some Flesh Eater Courts, and he's very excited. And I'm just going to find some way to wiggle those out of his hands and build the army. That's not true, but I'll help him pay him if he wants them. So, friends, tell me your thoughts. I'm going to switch back here. Tell me your thoughts, what you are excited about. I'm going to hop over to the chat and just take a look here. It seems like people are popping up. Oh, that's so funny that I already said that. Real Orange Jack question. Want to trade your piece of chaos for my Flesh Eater Courts? Oh, Oh well, I made it through January with the Beast of Chaos, so totally. I feel like that's it's felt like a year. Well, I'm just gonna go through the chat real quick and see if there's any questions that maybe I can see. There's a lot of Skaven talk. By that I mean people talking as Skaven. Honestly, one thing I do want to add, what I'm extremely excited for is the prospect of getting books that follow this kind of stuff. When Blight War came out, which is kind of like analogous to me, there were books that centered around the female Stormcast character in that, and so I want books that detach themselves from humanity. I want books that focus on Skaven machinations and Flesh Eater Courts things. Like I've said before when I did the Flesh Eater Courts lore week, they are to me one of the most fascinating factions because if you read the book Nagash Undying King by Josh Reynolds, which if you haven't, please go do, they encounter a Flesh Eater Courts character in there, and he struggles with the idea that he understands he's sick, but he gets caught up in it sometimes. Like he has these momentary lapses where he's like, I'm messed up, aren't I? And everyone's like, yeah, bro. in Age of Sigmar speak. But then he just snaps back into it and he falls back into delusion. So there's this constant tension between reality and their perception. And so I think those make extremely interesting characters where, it adds another layer. Instead of just everything being morally gray, you have someone who thinks that they're being good, but the result of that is evil. It's horrific in every way. And so I don't know. I find them to be very ready for like a good book. If a good writer with a good sense of dialogue, I love Josh Reynolds, but he can't write everything, much to my dismay. But if you're really focused on dialogue and inner tension, I think Flesh Eater Courts are probably one of the most fascinating factions in the universe. That is Age of Sigmar. Let's see here. I'm just gonna go through here. Hellpit Abomination. Yes, you called it earlier. And let's see here. Still think Dante says he still thinks Flesh Eater Courts needed something to expand their range, possibly. But what they see themselves as in their head is pretty finite. They're just like militiamen basically with a Lord Regent nearby. So in their minds, they don't perceive there being a lot of units. I don't know. There's definitely room to expand. I would agree with that. Wish Flesh Eater Courts got some new dice. That'd be kind of cool. I wish it was like kind of like the Skaven ones that were black, but they had blood drops. That'd be super neat. Let's see here. Yeah, the knot holes are definitely interesting. I'm just reading the comments that I was just looking through here. The knot holes are definitely one of the more fascinating things. Question: do you think Skaven might have some kind of dual allegiance mechanic like Mulder and Scryer shenanigans? If they did, I'm not going to say no, but if they did, it would be a new step forward in the way they do their rules writing. I think when I first see that, my first thought is how they've been doing Beast of Chaos, Gloomspite Gets, where it's all this factions listed separately. What I would like, however, for this to be is like, you can take all these different allegiance abilities, but everyone gets access to clan rats universally. I think that's really what I want. Because I think if you start your army with like, here's 2 blocks of 30 clan rats, or 40 or whatever the number is. I don't really research Skaven or play it that much, but you start with your basic clan rats, and then you can build character around that. What it would also do is allow you as a player, your first purchase is the clan rats, and then from there you can change things up and add a lot more character based on your allegiance abilities. So add a lot of versatility to your purchases, and I think that's super important. Yeah, the pictures are pretty rough on their thing. For some reason, my camera's not wanting to stream at full capacity, but it will here pretty soon. Can we get a Flesh Eater Courts week 2? What I will tell you this, I'm definitely going to start with Skaven because that's definitely something people have been more excited about. Like, there's more anticipation for that book coming out, so I want to focus on Skaven, really give them their time. But I will do an update, video or 2 at least, regarding Flesh Eater Courts, because here's the thing about Flesh Eater Courts, right? Things have changed since their book came out. Nagash has made a power play for the fate of the Mortal Realms, and how they see him was a side note in the first book. It was just like, Some people like Nagash, some people don't. They're part of the death faction, but they're not actually dead, so they don't have to follow him. You know what I mean? It was kind of this like, here's some reasons that you may or may not like him. But the thing is that him being Nagash, being a major player right now in the Fate of the Mortal Realms, I think we've seen it from every other book. They all mention the Necroquake being an integral part of like a turning point in their history, and I think they're going to be no different. So I think if nothing else, a video talking about how the Necroquake and Nagash are affecting them is certainly warranted. And if there's anything new, I'll talk about it there as well. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and shut this down, but I just wanted to share that news with you. I'm very excited for these books. Like I said, I haven't gotten anything early, anything like that, but I don't know, I certainly hope to be able to review them as soon as possible, likely when they come out, like everyone else. And you can stay tuned. Basically, how I've been doing it is, it comes out on 1 week. I give myself a week to write some quality lore videos, do some cool intro stuff, and then I'll hop and do the lore week that following one. So there'll be a week between when the book released and when the lore videos start, just to make sure I have some good quality stuff and I do it right, because both of these I think are factions that deserve justice done to them in terms of like the quality and making sure people I don't know, fall in love with them. Skaven's one of the best IPs out there in terms of fantasy stuff, so we're going to do a good job, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. Appreciate everyone's I don't know, well-wishing. Been super sick this last weekend, but should be getting good here soon. So have a good day. I'll talk to you real soon.